Hi there. Welcome to my video on smart EQ plugins. I'm David, and in this video I'm going to be looking at 4 smart equalization plugins, seeing how they perform when used in a set and forget kind of way for ideally long-form audio such as audiobooks. As always, I have run through the same test to start with. I have recorded 20 sentences between 1 and 9 words, testing my character voices, sibilants, plosives, proximity, etc. Have normalized those sentences for better matching to each other and to the rest of my videos, so everything's between LUFS I of -20 and -24. And I have then applied the plugins that I'm looking at to that audio in the most default way possible. If they have learning, I have clicked learn. If they do not have learning, I have set them to the most generic male dialogue setting that I have been able to find. As I've said, I am looking at 4 plugins. So first up is Sonible's Smart EQ4, which I'm a big fan of, using it on a daily basis. Its marketing spiel calls it an intelligent AI-assisted equalizer designed to tackle spectral problems and bring tonal balance to the mix quickly and efficiently. It automatically adapts to a track based on instrument genre or custom profile. So in our case, I've been using the speech low profile. And if you're using it on multiple tracks, it does some very clever stuff with unmasking and cross-channel processing. It has dynamic EQ functionality, auto-gain compensation, mid-side processing, dynamic filters, spectral visualizers, blah, 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 blah. It costs £109 or $129. Second up is SoundTheory Gullfoss, which is an intelligent equalizer that listens to your audio and dynamically adapts to enhance spectral clarity and detail. It is designed to resolve frequency masking and balance sound in real time, giving your brain easier access to important musical information and unlocking clarity without disrupting the mix. So practically speaking, it is about removing the bits of the audio that your brain is not going to listen to and focusing on the bits that it is. It costs £155 or $199. Third up is Waves Curves AQ, which stands for Autonomous EQ, and this is touted as the world's first autonomous EQ. So Curves AQ uses generative AI to learn the tonal character of the audio and design up to 5 ideal EQ curves to pick from, although for the purposes of this video, I have just picked the first one. It has spectral targeting, smart tilt, dynamic and static EQ modes, per band, boost, cut, control, basically everything that you'd accept from an EQ like this. It costs £50 or $66. And then finally is Oeksound Bloom, which is an adaptive tone shaper that analyzes the signal and applies context-aware tonal correction. It boosts and cuts frequencies only when needed and creates a balanced natural sound. It is designed to let the user safely add warmth, clarity, brightness, or control boominess, etc. without introducing harshness, and it allows one to adjust across the frequency spectrum dynamically. That is a lot of marketing jargon. It is £165 or $209. So I'm going to show these tests in a way that will allow for good A/B testing, although not the most enjoyable watching experience. So the first audio that I will play for each sentence is raw, followed by Smart EQ4, followed by SoundTheory Gullfoss, followed by raw again, followed by Waves Curve AQ, followed by Oeksound Bloom, followed by the raw audio again. So in all cases, raw audio either is immediately before or immediately afterwards the EQ being tested, so that you can do A/B testing on your own by skipping backwards and forwards in the video. Let's have a listen. Cue dramatic music. 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 Or down, we're not your mom. 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 Crunchazoids. 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 Now, imagine the perfect espresso. 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 Precision is not an option. 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 Talk to someone who gets it. 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 I don't think we should go in there. 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 I brought you a spoon. 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 Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. I'm the best magical dog. 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 All are safe under my protection. 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 Roll up, 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 roll up. You just got mad. on my shoes. You just got mud 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 on my shoes. I was never in the shadows. 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 Client said it'd be easy. 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 I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. Kill them all. 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 She sells seashells by the seashore. 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 Peter Piper picks a peck of pickled peppers. 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 They're right behind you. 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 Okay, so anyone who's looked at one of my videos before will know that as well as looking at these 20 tests, I like to see how plugins and microphones perform on longer form audio. And as always, I have used the first chapter of Winnie the Pooh. Again, every third, so the first, fourth and seventh thing played is going to be raw again for A/B testing. And let's have a listen to that. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. So what are my conclusions? Well, let's start with Sonible's Smart EQ 4. So obviously I like this plugin. I use it all the time. I think it is the easiest to use out of the four of these, and frankly I do think it sounds the best out of the four. But what I don't like is that it gives a different result each time you learn. So to use it best, I've found that if you crank the learning time up to 60 seconds, which invariably takes longer than 60 seconds as it requires 60 seconds of audio, and most dialogue has silence between words. If you use 60 seconds learning, you will get a better and more consistent result. SoundTheory Gullfoss certainly is an improvement over unprocessed audio, and I think it is strongest when working with the lower registers, such as with Imagine the Perfect Espresso. Let's have a listen. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Or on the proximity test of precision is not an option. Let's have a listen to that. Precision is not an option. Precision is not an option. I've got to be honest, on those I think it might even be better than Smart EQ 4. It also reduced the weird sound. I'm not sure what it is, some sort of echo, some sort of reverb, something vibrating within my head box, the box I record in. But there's a weird sound at the start of, "They're right behind you." And that sound was actually reduced by SoundTheory Gullfoss in a rather pleasant way. What I didn't like so much is I found that Gullfoss slightly fuzzed the edge of the audio, and it took away, I think, some of the richness in my voice. It's also not as simple to use as Smart EQ 4, and it's entirely plausible that with more effort on my part, it would have done a better job. On the other hand, I am looking for plugins that can be used in a very simple, set and forget way, and despite Smart EQ being powerful, it is very, very easy to use. And then, it doesn't help that it is a bit pricier than Smart EQ 4. Waves, curves, AQ. Well, I like that it offers 5 curves, although most of them looked pretty odd to me. The reason I picked the first one is it's the only one that looked slightly sane. It is very, very easy to use. And in one case, I thought it did sound particularly good, where I say I'm going to count down from 3 and then. So let's have a listen to that. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. I'm going to count down from 3 and then. So what that suggests to me is that Curves AQ works better for higher voices, perhaps, and that is probably something worth exploring more if you have a higher pitched voice than me. What I didn't like, well, I've basically written a couple of swear words in my notes. I mean, what the something. There are problems. There are some real problems with this plugin. First up is a serious issue with limiting. The fact that an EQ needs a limiter option built into it is a bad sign, and it ended up peaking at minus 0.1. when the original audio does not end up peaking at minus 0.1 in the poo test. It is invariably louder than the rest of the examples. It sounds harsh, very harsh to me. And frankly, I think it is noticeably worse than any other option. On two of them, on the usual difficult test of I don't think we should go in there, it sounded, frankly, torturous. Let's have a listen.
I don't think we should go in there. I don't think we should go in there.
And the other one it sounded particularly bad on is roll up, roll up. Let's have a listen to that.
Roll up, roll up, roll up, roll up.
You know, in the grand scheme of things, this sounds entirely different to the rest of the options, which is a bad thing. You know, if 3 out of 4 tests sound fairly similar and one sounds wildly different, it kind of suggests that the one's doing something wrong. And then, of course, it's waves. Lots of people don't like waves, including me, although I do always try and give it a fair chance, and I do feature waves in a lot of these tests. But, you know, it's really not performing as well. And if you want to spend less money, I think you're better off looking at something like Sonible's Pure EQ, which is much cheaper. Or their new Learn EQ, which wasn't even out when I did these tests. It only came out a few days ago, based on the time that I'm recording this. Finally, there was Oeksound Bloom. So what I liked, it is an improvement over no plugin, sometimes. And it does best on quieter bits like Talk to Someone Who Gets It. So let's have a listen to that. Talk to someone who gets it. Talk to someone who gets it. And I think it does quite well on the sibilance of She Sells Seashells on the Seashore. Let's have a listen to that again. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. So what I didn't like, it slightly increased the volume, which was unexpected. You know, if you are, it frustrates me when plugins like this do not it frustrates me when plugins like this don't have an auto gain function that, you know, works properly. I also thought it muffled things quite a bit, which suggests it might be cranking up the boxiness here rather than reducing it. But it is not as simple to use a Smart EQ for, and it is, again, entirely plausible that with more effort on my part, it would have done a better job. Finally, it struggled with the proximity test, I think, compared to the raw audio. Let's have another listen to that. Precision is not an option. Precision is not an option. So that's it for Smart EQs. I think I honestly can wholeheartedly recommend Smart EQ 4 once again out of all of these. But next time I'm going to be looking at some more unusual, more interesting, I think, plugins, although not necessarily ones you'd use all the time. So next time I will be looking at a number of smart resonance reduction, resonance suppressing plugins. I'll be looking at Mastering the Mix Rezo, Melda Productions M Spectral Dynamics LE, Synaptic Unveil, DSP's SA3 Spectral Processor, Oeksound Soothe 2, and Baby Audio's Smooth Operator Pro. And I think that's going to be a really interesting set of comparisons to look at. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.